how to reopen, saving jobs, but trying to protect lives. The New York Times first obtaining the projected numbers shared with the federal government by Johns Hopkins, estimating as many as 3,000 deaths per day in June, nearly double the current rate. What the White House is saying about these numbers tonight as President Trump publicly revises his own estimates. All of this tonight as 38 states begin to lift some restrictions. And tonight we ask if any of those states have met the guidelines put out by the president and his team, calling for 14 days of declines in cases. The troubling answer. Tonight, new images of protesters angered by the shutdown, and while their message resonates with so many, the alarm tonight over the lack of masks and social distancing. Dr. Deborah Birx calling such images devastatingly worrisome. And now flashpoints in several states. A security guard in Michigan shot and killed for reportedly telling a customer to wear a mask. New York City police investigating several violent arrests for allegedly violating social distancing orders. And tonight, California, the first state to issue a stay-at-home order, now saying some businesses will be allowed to reopen by the end of this week, while New York's governor warns of a second wave, possibly worse than the first. President Trump tonight doubling down on his attacks on China, saying he has seen evidence the virus originated in a lab in Wuhan. And now the intelligence report that the Chinese government misled the world about the scope of the virus while stockpiling their own medical supplies. The race for a vaccine tonight, at least 8 human trials underway, including 2 here in the U.S. And tonight, Oxford researchers on how soon they could know if their vaccine works. And one key vaccine trial here in the U.S. and what we've learned tonight. Our team in Italy this evening as the longest lockdown in Europe begins to lift there, millions returning to work. But with changes, commuters now screened with technology looking for fevers. The new move tonight to ration some of America's food supply. The key grocery stores taking new steps, imposing limits. We'll look into why and how long until this affects prices, too. And remembering an NFL coach with his own words, how he wanted to be remembered.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here as we start another week together, another week, another test for America and our leaders at the state level, at the federal level. How do you reopen America, save jobs without risking lives? Tonight, at least 38 states have now eased restrictions, even though many of these states have not met guidelines from the president and his own team. And the new preliminary analysis developed for the government and obtained by the New York Times that estimates the number of daily deaths from the virus could double by June 1st to 3,000 a day. What the White House is saying about this tonight as the president revises his own toll numbers. And this evening, the numbers we have already seen in this country, more than 68,000 lives lost. Across this country, the pressure to lift restrictions is mounting every day. People crowded into New York's Central Park there, leading to the question, is the U.S. moving too quickly? The beaches in Clearwater, Florida. Tensions boiling over in Austin. A Texas park ranger pushed into a lake while asking a group to spread apart. And in New York City, an undercover officer involved in this altercation while making an arrest for alleged violations of social distancing. Today, hundreds of protesters were at the Massachusetts State House calling for an end to restrictions, a state where the outbreak is still at its peak. And in California, late today, Governor Gavin Newsom now saying he will ease some restrictions on businesses later this week. There's also word tonight the food supply in this country, the major grocery store chains now saying they will begin to ration meat. What's driving this? And we'll get to it all in just a moment as we begin this new week. And we begin tonight with ABC's Tom Llamas right here in New York.
Tonight, as much of America wrestles to reopen, the New York Times obtaining a preliminary analysis about what could happen if social distancing rules are relaxed. The report provided to FEMA to aid in scenario planning paints a stark image of what may lay ahead. The data put together by Johns Hopkins shows the number of Americans dying every day from the coronavirus could nearly double by June 1st, 3,000 a day, and cases could soar from 25,000 to 200,000 a day. The White House says the data does not reflect modeling and has not been vetted by its coronavirus task force. But the president now acknowledging the death toll could climb to 100,000.
We're going to lose anywhere from 75, 80 to 100,000 people. That's a horrible thing.
But as the country starts to reopen and more Americans pack parks and beaches, the challenge now, how to protect the public. And in some cases, temperatures are reaching a boiling point. In Flint, Michigan, Calvin Munnerlin, 43, a father of 8 and a security guard, allegedly killed after a dispute over a customer not wearing a mask. A family of 3 now charged with murder.
It is incredibly sad that in this crisis that this life was lost. I ask that all Michiganders do the right thing, keep their wits about them, and take actions to protect themselves and others in this incredibly stressful time that we're all navigating together.
In Texas, this park ranger informing a crowd about social distancing shoved into the water at Lake Austin. 25-year-old Brandon Hicks arrested and charged with attempted assault. And in New York, police launching an internal investigation after this video surfaced showing the arrest of 3 people allegedly violating social distancing orders on Saturday. Today, dense crowds in Boston at this protest at the State House. The White House coronavirus response coordinator concerned about the risk at those rallies like this one in Michigan.
It's devastatingly worrisome to me personally, because if they go home and infect their grandmother or their grandfather who has a comorbid condition and they have a serious or an unfortunate outcome, they will feel guilty for the rest of our lives.
38 states now easing restrictions.
There's not too many states that I know of that are going up. Almost everybody is headed in the right direction. I think most of the numbers are coming down. We're on the right side of it.
But in 17 states, the virus is still surging. Some of those states opening up have not seen the recommended 14-day decline in cases. And the virus's deadly march felt all over the country. In Chicago, 22-year-old mother Nyla Moore suffering an asthma attack, then losing her fight with the virus after 3 weeks on a ventilator. Her dream was to teach children with special needs. In Las Vegas, Veronica Wells and her husband are balancing mounting bills and coronavirus fears. She's terrified of her husband returning to work at a homeless shelter.
We really don't have any options. He's 50 years old. He's got asthma. He's got a compromised immune system. So it's just very scary.
For doctors on the front lines like Umesh Gidawani at New York's Mount Sinai Hospital, there is worry about the patients right in front of him and the weeks ahead.
Are we going to see spikes coming back, especially as we start to relax and loosen some of the restrictions that we are used to?
That is a question everyone is asking. Tom with us again tonight. And Tom, you reported there on that new preliminary analysis first reported in the New York Times showing the potential new numbers. But there was something else today that caught our attention. The number 2 official at the CDC who seemed to be saying the government didn't act quickly enough to stop the virus as it was spreading from Europe.
That's right, David. Dr. Ann Schuchat, the number 2 at the CDC, says limited testing and delayed travel alerts with Europe helped drive the outbreak here in the U.S. She says in February alone, 2 million people traveled from Italy and other European countries. The travel ban did not start with those countries until March 11th. Dr. Schuchat writing, we clearly didn't recognize the full importations that were happening. David?
All right, Tom Llamas leading us off on a Monday night. Tom, thank you. President Trump, meanwhile, is sharpening his criticism of China tonight after a U.S. intelligence report found China hid the severity of the outbreak and then hoarded vital medical supplies. So will the U.S. take action? Here's our chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
To President Trump, there is no doubt who is to blame for the coronavirus pandemic.
It came from China. It should have been stopped. It could have been stopped on the spot. They chose not to do it, or something happened. Either there was incompetence or they didn't do it for some reason. And we're going to have to find out what that reason was.
The U.S. is accusing China of covering up just how devastating the virus was when it first hit. A report by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, obtained by ABC News, concludes, quote, the Chinese government intentionally concealed the severity of COVID-19 from the international community in early January while it stockpiled medical supplies. And over the weekend, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told ABC's Martha Raddatz that he has seen evidence that the virus came from this lab in Wuhan, China, a theory pushed by the president as well.
And, Mr. Secretary, have you seen anything that gives you high confidence that it originated in that Wuhan lab?
Martha, there's enormous evidence that that's where this began. I can tell you that there is a significant amount of evidence that this came from that laboratory in Wuhan.
But the administration has not made any evidence public. When asked if the virus spread was accidental or intentional, Secretary Pompeo said he could not answer. The director of national intelligence has said the intelligence community is investigating, quote, whether the outbreak began through contact with infected animals or if it was the result of an accident at a laboratory in Wuhan. The Chinese government knows it's not just Donald Trump placing blame. According to Reuters, the Chinese Ministry of State Security has reported to Chinese leaders that anti-China sentiment around the world is at its highest level since the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. So high, the report says, that China should be prepared for the possibility of war with the United States.
Those were some bold words, but as you point out, John, the critique isn't just from the U.S. when it comes to China. And John, with us live from D.C., and the Secretary of State, we all watched, telling Martha the U.S. is going to hold China accountable. So what is the White House saying tonight about any possible retaliation?
Well, the president said on Friday that he wants to find out what happened before making a decision on retaliation. And just yesterday, the president was asked if new tariffs on China could be part of any retaliation. And he said, quote, we're all playing a very complicated game of chess or poker. So the bottom line, David, it's unclear what exactly he has in mind.
All right, we'll wait and watch. John Karl, thank you. Next tonight, the race for a vaccine. 8 human trials underway, as we've been reporting here, 2 here in the U.S. And tonight, what Oxford researchers are now saying about how soon they could have an answer if their vaccine is working. This is potential good news. And there's also news tonight from a vaccine trial right here in the U.S., as we hear tonight from a volunteer in that trial. Here's Kaylee Hartung.
Tonight, the race to find a vaccine intensifying. In Washington state, officials say they're going at record speed using a new process in the first of only 2 trials in the U.S. Neil Browning, a father of 3, volunteering for the experimental vaccine.
So 2 doses and relatively no side effects.
Nothing whatsoever.
In the UK, Oxford's trial is showing the most promise. Researchers say it works on monkeys, and they could get the first results in humans by mid-June.
The intention is to make enough doses so that were it approved in, say, September, we would actually have 30 million doses.
President Trump optimistic about rolling out a vaccine soon.
We are very confident that we're going to have a vaccine at the end of the year.
The former acting head of the CDC casting doubt on whether they can even have a viable vaccine.
There are a number of viral infections, HIV, dengue, where scientists have been working for decades and still haven't come up with a safe and effective vaccine.
Tonight, a potential breakthrough. The FDA fast-tracking emergency use of a Swiss antibody test made by Roche. They say it's 99.8% accurate. According to the FDA, at least 170 companies developed tests for the U.S. Only 12 received emergency authorization. With demand so high, they were all temporarily allowed on the market, even though they didn't prove their reliability. Tonight, a new federal guideline tightening the rules for antibody tests. Emergency authorization requests now must be submitted to continue distribution, an attempt to weed out inaccurate tests. Dr. Rahul Sharma got the virus and then tested positive for its antibodies.
I was also very aware that that did not make me bulletproof or necessarily immune.
So let's get to Kaylee. She's with us live from Los Angeles tonight. And Kaylee, the president saying we could have a vaccine by January. Dr. Anthony Fauci weighing in on this as well, saying it is possible that once they have a likely vaccine, they've got to start manufacturing and quickly. So ready to go. So when we have approval, it will be ready to give out. But what's the timeline we're really looking at tonight?
Well, David, he has said it will take 6 to 9 months to manufacture and mass produce a vaccine, which means if we want this by January, that window is quickly closing. David?
And they'll be forced to pick which one they take a gamble on. All right, Kaylee, thank you. Overseas tonight, Italy is taking its biggest steps yet to reopen after an 8-week lockdown. And as we all remember, the worst death toll in all of Europe. Millions today going back to work, but there were major changes, including that technology, those sensors looking for fevers. ABC's James Longman tonight from Italy.
Italy's outbreak was one of the earliest outside China. Its nightmare warned the rest of the world what would come.
But today, Europe's longest lockdown easing after almost 2 months, allowing a return to work for more than 4 million people, construction and manufacturing back, parks open, and families able to reunite after weeks apart. But this is a cautious first step. Documentation is still needed to go outside. Masks and gloves required in some areas on public transport. Commuters screened for signs of fever. This was a national trauma that will take time to heal. The town of Bergamo was one of the hardest hit.
This is the road on which military vehicles were pictured carrying the bodies of the dead from the cemetery out of town. It was a key moment, really, that woke this country up to the true scale of the crisis. But the mayor here says that the death toll may be as much as 5 times what's been reported.
Bergamo's hospital attracted global attention.
It was almost an apocalypse. Very severe acute respiratory failure and dozens of patients a day.
Dr. Roberto Consentini runs the emergency unit the world saw overwhelmed.
When I saw with my eyes several patients all over the emergency room with the helmet and with oxygen, in that moment I realized that it could have been terrible. Figures talk to the brain, but images talk to the heart.
But tonight, as people try to return to life, the danger of a second wave follows.
And James Longman, who's made the trip back to Italy for us. And James, of course, the world is watching, the U.S. is watching, and the question, how quickly will Italy be able to determine if they need to slow down or pull back somewhat on the reopening?
Well, David, this is essentially a test. In 2 weeks, shops are scheduled to reopen. 2 weeks after that, cafes and restaurants. But if at any time they detect a big second wave, all of that stops. David.
James Longman with us again tonight. Thank you, James. And we continue to follow concerns over America's food supply here at home. Tonight, Costco is now setting limits on how much meat their customers can buy. Kroger doing this too. Could it soon affect prices? And here's ABC's Matt Gubman.
Tonight, some of America's supermarket giants rationing meat sales. This as Americans homebound because of COVID are buying more beef and pork than ever. Kroger, Costco, and others announcing they'll limit fresh meat sales to 2 or 3 packages per household. Demand for meat up an estimated 40%, while production of beef and pork is down at least 25%, with outbreaks sickening thousands of workers at over 100 meat processing plants nationwide. The result, wholesale meat prices are up 60%, beef prices the highest in decades, according to industry insiders. And that's precisely what supermarkets hope the rationing will avoid. Costco saying our buyers and suppliers are working hard to provide essential high-demand merchandise as well as everyday favorites.
David, over the past several weeks, meat producers and supermarkets like the ones behind me have been absorbing the additional costs themselves, but we're told that's likely to change, with consumers likely to see a noticeable uptick in prices in the coming days or even a week. David.
All right, Matt Gutman on this part of the story again tonight. Matt, thank you. When we come back, the severe storms at this hour, the images, construction workers caught on a roof as a storm tears through. They survive this. And remembering a legendary coach, how he wanted to be remembered in his own words.
I'm Norm.
I'm Saz.
And we live in Columbia, Missouri. We do consulting, but we also